Samantha Toitu, and my research is on domestic violence against Pacific Island women. Domestic violence is a serious issue within the Native Hawaiian Pacific Island community here in Oahu. This type of environment is where many Pacific Islanders grow up in, therefore makes Pacific Island women accustomed to domestic violence. In many Pacific Island cultures, hitting and abusing a woman is is considered a norm. Um, and it is a very serious issue within the Pacific Island community, and it's a silent problem, and not a lot of women get to voice their opinion. Is to establish the cultural effects of domestic violence on Pacific Island women in the state of Hawaii. Um, out of Hawaii is one of the states that has the highest domestic violence cases, and the objective of the study is to examine the cultural reasons for the increased domestic violence cases against Pacific Island women, to determine the cultural effects of domestic violence on Pacific Island women, and lastly, to suggest possible solutions to the problems of domestic violence in the Pacific Island community. My research questions are: what are the cultural reasons for the increasing act of domestic violence in the Pacific Islands, specifically in Hawaii? How does domestic violence affect family life, religion, and the whole Pacific Island community? And lastly, can the Pacific Island community and leaders look past culture and find solutions to the problem of domestic violence? So for my literature review, some of the themes I've created is culture and perspective, meaning culture in general. A key point is culture determines which personality characteristics are valued most and how time and space are defined. View on Pacific Island culture. Um, a, a summary from that for that theme is: for Pacific Islanders, a population that is small in the U.S., even for a minority group, the prevalence of domestic assault and abuse is easily overlooked by agencies. The third theme is low wages and poor economic and living conditions. Um, Even though Pacific Islanders are represented in military, security, and healthcare, many Pacific Islanders do live in poor economic and living conditions, especially in Hawaii. And with that, living in these poor economic and living conditions, and especially low income housings, um, these environments may be one of the impacts on why domestic violence are very high in those living conditions. Gender and employment. A quick summary for that theme is: unemployment does have a huge impact on the Pacific Island community, especially Pacific Island women. Pacific Island women are the breadwinners for most of the Pacific Island, for most Pacific Island families. Sometimes, um, or most of the time, men are the breadwinners um, of the family. However, when women take over or take control of the breadwinning, um, it does it does affect an ego or pride of on men, which is probably one of the reasons why um, that may be a motive on um, domestic violence. And then lastly, Pacific Islanders and abuse. Um, throughout within Throughout the years, there have been an increase of substance abuse, especially with the increase of um, psycho, psychosocial and financial stressors. So, with the inflation going up and many living in poor or low income housing, um, with just the effect of inflation, um, it does take a toll, and it does stress out a lot of Pacific Island families, to the point where substance abuse is one way um, they could deal with stress. Another study that I found, alcoholism may be another effect um, on Pacific Islanders and substance abuse. So thoughts? What do you want to accomplish? So I want to bring awareness and a voice to women in the Pacific Islander community. Many are afraid to come forward, thinking that they're alone, especially if they come from big families. Culture does take a huge toll on mental health, and that is why many choose to stay silent. In my paper, I do mention that um, when they come forward talking about their domestic violence experiences, they are shamed and shunned not only by the community but also by their family members. Some of the challenges that I will likely encounter while doing this research is cultural barriers. Many elders or traditional practices will be broken, and it will upset a lot of people. Since I am planning to conduct interviews, it may be a challenge for victims to come forward, especially since there is a trust barrier too. What I will do to overcome them is I will actually bring pre-reviewed research that has been done on this topic, provide facts and numbers to bring awareness to this topic, especially when I am planning to conduct these interviews. I'm able to bring forward these research, especially when some of them do have pre-recorded interviews from other victims. That way they could relate to um, that way they know that they are not alone. And lastly, to provide more information and to see if there are other resources that are available and to try to come up with new resources that will not only benefit the abuser and victim, but the Pacific Island community as a whole. Thank you.